Tsongkhapa, hello, is it working? Okay. Tsongkhapa, the great teacher who wrote the great stages of the path, or Lamrim Chemo, in one of his smaller texts called Three Principal Aspects of the Path, he says that if you mentally get habituated on the topic of the difficulty of finding precious human life, and that there is not much time in life, so by repeatedly thinking on this topic, you will be able to stop your obsession to this life. By repeatedly making your mind habituated with the preciousness of human life, that is so difficult to find, number one. Number two, that there is not much time in life. By making your mind habituated with this, you will be able to stop obsession to this life. I'm not saying that, don't enjoy life. Obsession, addiction to this life. Likewise, by repeatedly contemplating on the infallibility of karma and its fruit, law of causality, and sufferings of samsara, by repeatedly thinking on that, you will be able to stop obsession to the future life. It's making two important statements. One is saying don't get obsessed to this life. In other words, don't get stuck here. If you're really looking for long-lasting peace and happiness, don't get stuck here, don't get obsessed here. And then we might think, okay, what about next life? Don't get obsessed with the next life also. It depends what kind of life you are talking about. So therefore, in the as I mentioned earlier, in our spiritual practice, we do the practice stage by stage. Stage by stage. So therefore, this whole stages of the path that we are reading is divided into three sections. This book is divided into three sections. The first part is called the stages of the path common to the small individual. We were talking primarily on that level. Preciousness of human life, impermanence, law of causality, this comes in the first part, the part relating to the people of small intelligence. Second is called path common to the people with middling intelligence. There we will talk about Four Noble Truth, liberation, etc. Then finally the third path, which is called path of the great individual. So there we don't use the word path common to the great individual. It's the path of the great individual. The first two are called path common to the small individual, path common to the middle individual, because we are not practicing just the small individual, just the middling individual. But this is a kind of preliminary practice which is necessary also for the great path. So path common to both small individual and great individual, stage by stage practice. This is important because unless you build the foundation of your spiritual practice, and without proper foundation, if you try to overreach something, especially without foundation, if you try to do some tantric practice, you may be fooling yourself. Right? It is like trying to reach on the upper story without climbing the stairs. You might say, what about lift? Even the lift goes stage by stage. Not at one go. Even the aeroplane goes stage by stage. It just don't reach here like that. It takes time, right? 20 hours from America to here, or 8 hours to Europe, things like that. So the point that is made in these lines is that you should repeatedly think about this preciousness of this human life. I've obtained a very precious life, but it's not going to stay forever. Nobody knows how long we live. Nobody knows what kind of other opportunities we will get. So many things are needed. Then finally, because of impermanence, we all die. Death doesn't mean that you disappear into nothingness. Your mental stream will again continue, bringing with it all the imprints, positive, negative imprints that you had left earlier in the previous life, in this life, in many lives before. And then because of this imprint, you again encounter happiness, suffering, whatever, depending upon the habits that you have formed. Right? So therefore, it is important to make this long-term planning of, getting the higher happinesses, especially to make a planning so that at least, again I obtain a precious human life, at least a precious human life again. Now next time, not only just precious human life, where you also have access to Dharma and built on what you have studied, what we already, practiced in this life. So to do that, you need to do some rigorous practice. Right? That is the master plan. But in order to see the possibilities of becoming a Buddha or gaining that highest happiness, you need to have some sense here, right now. By thinking about the destructiveness of negative emotion, how these destructive emotions create suffering, how these positive emotions create happiness. You need to practice that a little bit. How will you do that? How will you do that? You can do that by, first of all, finding out, studying your own emotions, and out of which particularly identify one negative emotion which has a predominant presence in you, which had created a lot of problems. You know that very well. Right? So then make an attempt to reduce the intensity of that negative emotion a little bit. Then see the difference. For example, if you are a very hot-tempered, angry person, angry young man, hot blood, yeah? Few years back, an Iranian group came to Dharamsala, around 60, 70 of them. So somebody requested me, somebody living in Mumbai who was organizing that visit, requested me to give half-day teaching to them. So I gave half-day teaching. And as usual, my talk and then followed by question answer. During question answer, there was a gentleman, Iranian gentleman, who got up and said that your teaching is wonderful, very good, but I am a very angry person. I am a very angry person. When somebody says something, does something, I immediately take action. There's no waiting. I do that. So what do you say? That was his question. So I said, go ahead, continue. I said, go ahead, continue. I said this because when he asked me this question, I remembered a story that I heard from my parents, story of some Tibetans, So in Tibet, some regions of Tibet, they are very angry. They are very good in fighting and killing and things like that. So in a particular locality in Tibet, there was a very hot-tempered, angry young man. He would always pick up a fight, fight with somebody and knife that person, hurt that person, kill that person, whatever. Then comes back and he says, there is no mother's son that I see around. Mother's son means somebody who is brave. Father's son, mother's son, this is a kind of expression they use. कोई माए का लाल नहीं है, हिंदी में बोलता है ना, मुझे कोई माए का लाल नहीं मिला. So he would beat somebody and come back. There's nobody who can challenge me. Then his parents said, wait, the mother's son or father's son will come. Be careful. Then again he would meet somebody, beat somebody, hurt somebody, kill somebody, come back. See, nobody challenge me. So one day he met the mother's son. He fought with somebody, that mother's son knifed him, and all his intestines came out, In his hand he took out all these internal organs coming out. He said, today I met the mother's son. So it's like that, you see. It's only our stupidity. We think that nobody can harm me. I'm kind of invincible thing. But it's not like that. So with that kind of knowledge, I told this Iranian guy, continue. Because if you continue to fight, you will know what it means very soon. So that is really wrong. Right? So therefore, although we talk big, liberation, enlightenment, but you should have some understanding in your daily life, whether it's good to live harmoniously with other people or good to fight with other people all the time. Whether it's good to remain angry all the time or to be more patient. Whether it's good to be, greedy or have some sense of contentment. Whether it's good to be addicted in different things or not. You should just on this very almost like ground level, which you can easily understand, practice a little bit. Then you will develop that conviction which one is better. And once you develop this conviction that these negative emotions are really destructive, and the absence of these destructive emotions really make you happy and peaceful, then you will get a sense of what it means to reach that state of liberation which is without negative emotion, which is without suffering. Right? So it is important to start thinking and comparing these emotions, which one is useful, which one is destructive. Otherwise, there's no point talking about liberation and enlightenment. Somebody achieved enlightenment a long time back. You have not seen, I have not seen. Why should we tell this story again and again? So therefore, these days I've been repeatedly saying, Buddhism must make sense in today's world. Make sense means not only make sense in terms of understanding that it is scientific and things like that. More importantly, it should really help improving the life of people, alleviating their suffering, their problem, making them more happy, more harmonious. And that is possible if we practice it. Again, the best example is like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, because he lived, he practiced it, he lost his country in exile, and all the Tibetans who flee from Tibet, they all come to him, nothing but crying and tears, right? And then from Tibet also we get all the bad news all the time. But he's always smiling, laughing, happy, Not because the Tibetans are suffering, but because he says, I try my best to do everything that I can do. After that, then I enjoy my life. I get peaceful sleep. My blood pressure is like baby's blood pressure. You see, that's the thing. And that actually bothers the enemy. If His Holiness, loses his temper, get angry, and loses his appetite and sleep, then the enemy will be very happy. See, now he's suffering. So it's not normally the enemy who does that bad thing. It is your own, doing that ruins your health, that ruins your happiness, things like that. And then because His Holiness is always happy, he's respected everywhere, he gets all this, what do you say, prizes or medals from everybody, the enemy feels very unhappy. So it's almost like one man fighting the battle with this huge country. And this is an example of fight between violence and non-violence. Have you anybody read this new book? There is recently the latest book published by His Holiness is Voice of the Voiceless. This is a 70 years story of the Tibetan struggle. It's really nice. Not nice because it's a struggle Tibetan, but you can learn from there. And in the next few days, if you are here, hopefully we'll get that copy in the library for sale. And we have been selling this as a minimum price. In the market it is 700 rupees, but we are selling it 500 rupees because we wanted to make it available to everybody. So I ordered, then finish. Now again I ordered 400 copies, which may arrive in the next 3-4 days. Anyway, so you can buy it from anywhere. It may be interesting because then you can see the story of struggle through non-violent means. It's important, very, very important. And in fact, the Tibetan struggle is non-violent and just struggle. And His Holiness said this clearly, that if it is like political, then I would not participate in it. It's not just political. It's fight for truth and justice. That's why he tells others that when you support us, you're not supporting just Tibetans. When you support us, that doesn't mean you are pro-Tibetans and anti-Chinese. No, you are pro-justice. So those things, you will understand if you read that book. It's important. All right. So, what was the next? Yes.
About temporary enlightenment.
Yeah.
Is it like sometimes you can feel like unconditional love to everybody? Maybe 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, maximum maybe 15. Then I can't keep it. Can you tell something about temporary you feel love?
Yeah, I have experience of that. Some of my Tibetan friends, when they come from Switzerland, they bring this Swiss chocolate. And there is a lint, they call it, lint, I'm sure you're all. So there's a small one, I put it on my tongue and it just melts, Enlightenment for a few seconds. But that enlightenment, if you keep on tasting, you will become sick. Right? So anyway, the main point is almost like pleasure versus happiness, which we discussed earlier. Because when you experience this kind of, you use the word happiness, but still it's kind of pleasure. The very nature of these pleasures, they don't last long. Because they don't last long, you crave for more. There's a whole story about why we crave for more of these sensual pleasures. Right? So but then as you rightly mentioned, how can you sustain that? You can't sustain that. For example, in the case of this testing the chocolate, if you try to sustain it and keep on eating, you get addicted to it. You get sick. So clearly showing that is really not enlightenment and that is not the source of enlightenment. So therefore enlightenment has to be sought from within the mental consciousness. Any proper systematic, training of the mind that you do, it will be more sustaining, more reliable. Right? So training of the mind. Not as I mentioned earlier, not taking LSD or other drugs, but through systematic training, by understanding the reasons, the benefits, things like that, and then you train. And then the good thing is, it's mentioned in one of the Buddhist epistemology, that the good thing with training the mind is, once the mind is get habituated with something, it stays there. Not like the physical training. And once you get habituated with something, then the clarity becomes more and more. Yeah.
But what is that coming from?
Huh?
This feeling, wow, you feel love to everyone. What is that coming from?
Coming from because of your past life's experience, because of the teaching that you heard, because you had a nice lunch, because you had, honestly speaking, because your mood is dependent on many things. Sometimes you really had a nice food, you feel like, oh, it was so delicious. Then you look a little bit, nicer, right? And then sometimes go into a park and you relax, you feel nicer, you talk to people, Yeah, so many factors contribute to that.
Thank you for your explanation. If one person, this gentleman there, is training his mind, or is in the process of training his mind to remain in a flow of thought, which is without any desire, without any attachment, without any aversion, and stay in the presence, would he have, without any chocolate or any kind of recreational medicines, the state of love and bliss rather than pleasure?
I think possible, but not easy. Because we, the mortal beings, are heavily dependent upon food, recreation, rest, so many things, because we don't have a good understanding and training of the mind. But once you really have a good training, good understanding of the mind, that itself is recreation. That itself is happiness. So as you rightly use the word bliss, And that blissful state of the mind, or loving mind, or altruistic mind comes with understanding, with knowledge of the fact that you did the right thing. You helped the people, You have a very positive attitude. Positive attitude means, you can make your mind relatively happy easily. For example, if I see some of you smiling, instead of saying, why the hell you are smiling at me? Why the hell you are looking at me? Instead of saying that, you should feel happy. Oh, these people look happy. They're so wonderful. Just like your children being happy, you see? You feel happy. And when you see somebody nicely dressed and clean, don't say, he's so arrogant, he's so proud, he thinks he's so beautiful. Not like that. Oh, she looks so nice. The dress is so nice, you know. It's like praising the flower. Some people ask me, when you see some of the girls, don't you develop attachment? Yeah, I say, yes, I develop attachment. It's like seeing flowers, beautiful flowers. You say, you love flowers. Yeah, so beautiful. Nothing wrong. So don't pretend that you don't have attachment. You say, yeah, it's so good, you know. You feel like talking to things like this. It's like flower. But the important thing is don't go too near. So that's why they say there's a difference between liking the flower and loving the flower. If you like the flower, you might plug it. If you love the flower, you might water it. That's the difference, you see. So your attitude, I'm not saying I have all this practice, I have some sense, you know. So really, you know, just by thinking. And then also thinking, this is something this is constantly coming in my mind these days. When you see very, very young people or some people, then I get a mixed feeling, a little bit happiness, a little bit concern, you know, all these people are going to die. These people may face a lot of problem. I wish they have success, happiness, you know. Some kind of unnecessary kind of thinking comes in the mind. And then when you really have this feeling of responsibility, love and compassion to whoever you see, they may or may not benefit, but you are the first beneficiary. You feel happy, yes. You feel like talking to people, you feel like, you know, helping them. It's a rare opportunity. So therefore the Bodhisattvas, they say, when they hear the beggars begging, when they hear the voice of the beggars begging, please give me something, please give me something. Ordinary people would say, फिर आ गया भिखारी, उसको भगा दो. Again the beggars say, drive them away. But the Bodhisattvas, they said, the most melodious voice they can hear is somebody begging, somebody asking for help. When they hear somebody begging, somebody asking for it, oh, this is a golden opportunity for me to practice giving, for me to help, you see. So these are all, you know, your attitude, your way of thinking, right? Things like that. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
You talked about not skipping any steps in the path of spiritual development, right? Not taking the elevator. In the path of yoga,
Yeah.
you talk about going from the gross layer to the subtle layer.
Yeah.
You start by working on the physical body,
Yeah.
then move into the mind.
Yeah.
Whereas in Buddhism, we directly start with the mind. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, same. In both the cases, it's talking about stage by stage.
In this, we skip the body and we start with the mind in Buddhism. Whereas in this, we're starting with the body and then moving to the mind.
Skip the body, are you saying skipping the body is what we are in Buddhist practice? No, we don't say skip the body. We don't say skip the body. We are, of course, talking about development of the mind, which that is what it matters. But at the same time, the mind, at least in our case, the grosser level mind is still dependent on your body, on your brain. So therefore you must take care of your body. That is very much there. That's why, for example, when you do meditation, then there's a lot of question about where are you going to meditate, in which place. Cold place, hot place. Cold place, then you take this kind of food. Hot place, then this kind of food. Then what are the surroundings? If there are not many people around, be careful. You need to protect yourself. Make sure there are some gurus also meditating there. So if you have some spiritual difficulties, you can ask the question. So all this, of course, important. And then, of course, in Buddhism also we have all the yogic practices. Especially now, right now we are only dealing with the sutric teaching, not with the tantric teaching.
But that comes after.
Yes, when you go into the tantric teaching, then visualization of the nerves, channels, everything is there. For example, like the 6 Naropa yoga practices. Yeah. Yeah.
The previous discussion, we talked about free will.
Yeah.
But we don't get to choose when we're born, where we die.
Yeah.
We don't get to control our breath
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
Our heartbeat.
Yeah.
And somehow it feels like everything we think about is a conditioning of
Thank
how
you,
we were
thank you.
brought up, what our parents put into our brains,
Yes, true.
the school we went to.
Yes,
which,
yes.
I mean, most of the time we don't have.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you, thank you. You give me a golden opportunity to answer. Thank you. Because that's what I was pointing earlier. We call this samsara, cycle of existence. When you are stuck in the cycle of existence, the other day we discussed about the difference between rebirth and reincarnation. Reincarnation, you come with your free will, free choice. Rebirth, you are projected by the negative karma and contaminated action, right? So we are product of that karma and contaminated action. So in that sense, we hardly have any free will, or at least not much free will, right? So therefore, the Buddhist practice is to be able to regain that free will. Because you are right now projected into this life because you did not do any practice, right? So now, again comparing to the animals, human beings at least have much more choice, much more possibility to do different things. Although you are really like very strongly influenced by the situation, circumstances, parents, things like that. But I know many people who just come out of there, do their things on their own, things like that, right? So that's there. And especially now the reason we do such spiritual practice is now I don't want to be dictated by the negative emotions. I don't want to be controlled by the contaminated actions. I want to become free. I want to get liberated. That's the point. Yes, you are right. To some extent we don't have that. Now we should have that.
But is that an illusion of free will? Like, is it all fate?
Huh?
But is that just an illusion of free will? Or
Not illusion of free will. Not illusion. It is difficult to answer. For example, I remember meeting one young girl, Indian girl, many, now maybe almost 40 years back. I met her when I was a student there. She came there and she probably is studying philosophy or something. She said, things are there when you see, when you close your eye, nothing there. But the point that I'm making is, when you use the word illusion, as I mentioned earlier, one, illusion in the sense things appear to be having independent existence, but they have no independent existence. That's illusion, right? The another way is you had lunch, right? You took food and you got satisfied, right? You filled your stomach, right? That's not illusion. You really ate food, I'm sure. If you have really not eaten, it's just illusion, then I'll tell the organizers, please don't charge him. So that's not illusion. So that's what I'm saying. So you have this opportunity here and there, although you are heavily influenced by the information, by the propaganda, by the parents, things like that, but you still can make that attempt. Yeah.
So is Buddhist practice to gain knowledge or to let go of pollution and the knowledge is already there?
Knowledge and then let go of whatever illusion you mean. To gain knowledge, to remove ignorance. Because as I mentioned, much of our problem, suffering is due to ignorance, due to lack of knowledge. So therefore we need knowledge. But knowledge alone is not enough. You need wisdom.
But the wisdom is already there in our mind?
No, it's not there. No, it's not there. But I can't judge. You may have, but I don't know. But generally speaking, there's a difference between information, knowledge, and wisdom. Information is reading all the books about how to build a ship. You get information. Okay, I can build this way, this way. You get all the information. That doesn't mean you have the knowledge. Then after information, you get the knowledge of building a ship. You are able to build a ship. Wisdom ensures that the ship does not sink. So wisdom is based on personal experience. Wisdom says what you should do, what you should not do. Knowledge, maybe knowledge through listening, knowledge through contemplation, knowledge through meditation, and especially knowledge through meditation, then gradually develops wisdom. Yeah. Yeah.
You have spoken about fleeting pleasures
Yeah.
and today's world, etc.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of science about neurotransmitters and how that affects.
Yes.
So when we look at lasting happiness,
Hmm.
does Buddhism recognize the science of neurotransmitters or the difficulty of having low threshold for pleasure and higher threshold for lasting happiness? Is that something considered in the practice?
No, as I mentioned earlier, in Buddhism it's very clearly mentioned that if you just go after, the sensual pleasures, it will not give you long-lasting happiness. And there is a way to gain that long-lasting happiness through using your mind or training the mind or meditation, whatever. That's clearly mentioned. Now this can be supported by the scientific findings. What is the few terms they use it? I don't remember now. Anyway, yeah. Yes.
I have a question about anger. I realized through the courses, and it also beginners. I understood through the courses that I'm not entitled and don't have a reason to be angry. But then the next question is how to deal with it. And I thought always coming from the West, where it's very expressive, to express your anger, have it. And then I read in the book of Geshe that even expressing it as a catharsis, even expressing like beating a pillow, that it gives a mental imprint in the mind, and that may cause that you repeat it again. This was a little bit shocking for me. So this has been puzzling me for a while. What is this mental imprint? And if I don't put it on the person who puts on the pillow, it still may continue in me. Yeah.
There's a very beautiful Tibetan saying where it says, instead of reciting the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum with a negative mind, it is better you sing a song with a positive mind. So from that what I'm saying is, although it depends on the situation, but instead of hatching ill will, expressing is good. Because worse than anger is resentment. Hatching ill will. You may not say anything, then you wait for the opportunity. Okay, all right. I'll see you next time. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? So that is very destructive for you and for others. Without ill will, you express it. Finish. That, for me, that is better. But again, if possible, it depends on the situation. If possible, if you express it, then it may make the matter worse, The others also express it, you express it, then start hitting each other. So keep these things in mind. But otherwise, I think expressing is better. Yeah.
Is enlightenment the same thing than nirvana? And can you reach enlightenment without dharma practices? Can you reach enlightenment without dharma practices?
Impossible.
Somebody like Nelson Mandela.
Impossible.
Is it the same enlightenment?
No, impossible. Impossible. Because this English word enlightenment is very confusing actually. Because if you learn a new sentence which you never know before, then you say, oh, I'm enlightened. We are not talking about that enlightenment. We are talking about complete enlightenment. We are talking about enlightenment in the sense of having removed all the negative emotions, having removed all the sufferings. So those who have removed all the negative emotions, the seed of negative emotions, the imprints of negative emotions and so forth, they are called enlightened. So you can judge whether somebody is enlightened or not enlightened on that basis, not because somebody has a lot of knowledge, No.
The question of is there scientific evidence that meditation can lead to happiness? I recently did a medical study in US. They did an fMRI on Buddhist monks who have been practicing for a very long time, and they were saying that the fMRI was like shining like a big torch. That is evidence because you can actually detect happiness through fMRI studies. They wanted to see whether meditation leads to happiness. They did an fMRI study on Buddhist monks who have been practicing for many years, and they were saying that yes, their brains were totally different from normal brains.
Not only brain, but they are happier. For example, they put these practitioners in the machine. They did this with different, what they call it? No, MRI,
CT scan?
No. The different groups of people. Some are practitioners, some are not practitioners, some did practice for a few weeks, different groups they did. And then they put these people in the machine, one experiment. They did many experiments. I also went into this machine one time. I went into this machine and I fall asleep. So those people who really have achieved stability of the mind, calmness of the mind, so once they were put into the machine, then suddenly, unexpectedly, somebody comes and shouts at the top of the voice, a very frightening, shout. Ah! Then those people who are trained, they don't get disturbed much. Those who are not trained, they really develop a lot of fear. Things like that, you see. So there are, of course, many differences.
Geshe Lhakdor, if I consider a rainbow, it appears as a result of all of the causes and conditions.
Yes.
And if I consider that analogy and move that across to this wall, it's appearing because of all of the causes and conditions.
Yes, absolutely.
As am I.
Yes.
In principle, I should be able to put my hand through the wall.
In principle, yes.
Why can't I do it yet?
Huh?
Why can't I do it yet?
Why can't do it? Because they are different. One is rainbow, one is wall.
But why can't we realize the principle, let's say? Because if something is in principle true, it must mean that for some reason that truth is not realized. But if that truth was realized, the principle becomes an actuality.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, even though things don't have inherent independent existence, but they exist. Among those groups of things that exist, some are more soft, some are more hard, and some are very thin. Like, for example, rainbow, So there are different categories. But having said that, now this rainbow thing is a very good example. Very good example. And in fact, there is a verse in one of the beautiful texts called 37 Bodhisattva Practices. What appears to us is, what appears to us is like the rainbow in the summer. Although they appear beautiful, but they don't have any inherent existence or substance. Now this is a very good example. So if you want to know it, and then go to catch the rainbow. Have anybody tried to catch rainbow? I know how to catch it. So you will not be able to catch it, right? So this is an example. Then with the wall, again, of course, we are not saying things don't exist at all. We are not saying things exist exactly at the same same level. So there are different, some are concrete, some are not so concrete, so that makes a difference. But, and then plus your mind is also habituated with this way of thinking that this is soft, this is concrete, that is also contributing to it. And it is said that if you are somebody who is really, really realized, you can put your hand through the wall.
That's what I was looking for.
You can put your hand through the wall. Yesterday I brought that text, today I forgot that text. So that text clearly mentions. And he says, okay, if things don't exist independently, inherently, how about these solid mountains that you see day after day, things like that? Then he answers by saying, don't get surprised. Because you are habituated with this way of thinking for so many lifetimes. Even if you meditate for a short time, you can bring about changes. For example, there's a story of a meditator who meditated himself as a tantric deity. The tantric deity has a horn. So he meditated, visualized himself on that in the cave. And his meditation produced such a strong result that actually he could not come out of the cave because the horn got stuck there. And then there are other cases of people imagining themselves as a tiger and actually experiencing being a tiger. And he also told me, one lower tantric college monk, he was always reciting this wrathful mantra of Yamantaka. There's a mantra, Yamantaka. So it's a wrathful. He was reciting this. I don't know how many 100,000 he has recited. And he himself became wrathful because of this. And just one gaze to the dogs will all run away as if they are beaten by a stone. Just one gaze. And these things doesn't happen to us all the time because we don't practice. And then there is a story of Milarepa. He was moving somewhere. Suddenly there was a downpour of rain. And he said, where should I hide? Then he saw a horn, yak horn. He entered into it. Now our question is, what are you saying? Milarepa, big human being, how can you enter into horn? Then the answer is, he entered into horn. The horn did not become bigger. Milarepa did not become smaller. He is able to go there. So how will you explain these things? Many things. Have you watched this Replace Believe It or Not? Huh? Have you watched it? There you see so many things actually happening everywhere. Because of your physical condition, because of your attitude. I watched one. There was a lady who goes into the sauna. It's quite hot. And then in the beginning, 7-8 people go there and becomes hotter. Everybody, it's too hot, they start leaving. And then there was the elderly lady, she's sitting there. And by her side, she is making omelette. It is so hot. And she is able to stay there. And then I saw this story of a Russian lady eating nails and iron plates like that, digesting. These things are actually there. So this shows many possibilities. All right, yeah.
What is the relationship between heart with emotions and mind with emotions as per Buddhism?
Heart with emotions,
Yeah.
mind with emotions.
Yes.
No, I don't know actual meaning of the heart. Because if you are talking about compassion, then compassion itself is an emotion. Loving kindness itself is an emotion. Okay? And then compassion itself is a mind. Loving kindness, it's also a mind. So it's a mind as well as emotion. Okay?
This is not at all a theoretical question,
Yeah.
but I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I've been debating myself whether I should ask this in public because it's kind of personal, but it's also, it's not intimate, and I think, maybe somebody else could benefit from this.
Yeah.
So it comes with a bit of a story, so I would ask to,
please.
for a little bit of time, I'll try to keep it short.
Yeah.
So about 2 years ago, I had a scuba diving accident where my eardrum broke. And I had to get surgery for it because it wouldn't heal by itself. Ever since that happened, I've had a low humming in my ear.
Yes.
It's constantly there.
Yeah.
And in my day-to-day life, I've come to a point where I can deal with it pretty well. Like thankfully there's a lot of noise down there.
Yeah.
So it kind of covers it up to a large extent.
Yeah.
So all by all, I'm good in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But then I go on a meditation retreat.
Yeah.
Things get very quiet.
Yeah.
And especially in this particular meditation, like it gets very prominent.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, it confronts me with that, and on the other hand, it's can be quite a distraction in my meditation practice as well, which leaves me wondering: is there any point in me, continuing to do meditation retreats at all, or should I, skip them? I've been meditating for a long time.
Yeah.
I would say about 8 years on an almost daily basis.
No, actually,
I see the value in it, but retreats, this silence, is there any point in me still doing this?
I hope you did all the needed medical treatments. I suggest that you see one Tibetan doctor, maybe of some benefit, because these are, maybe related to your physical, ear, and it may also be related to the wind energy, in which case sometimes overthinking is not good. So in that case, meditation in the sense of overthinking maybe not good. That's my feeling. But then meditation basically means not just sitting and thinking all the time. The purpose of meditation is to reduce the negative emotions and to strengthen and promote the positive emotions. That you can do. That is really the crux of the matter. Otherwise, you sit and meditate. There is a story at the time of the Buddha. There was a great meditator by the name Udrak, Indian meditator. In many of these ancient, stories, sometimes a lot of exaggeration. I hope there's not exaggeration, but so this person by the name of Udrak, said to be a great meditator, especially on one-pointed meditation. So much so that he could sit in this one-pointed meditation, not for hours, not for days, months on end. Completely lost it. He was in a state of bliss, enjoying so much. He just completely lost it. So much so that he could not tend his hair. The hair started growing, flowing all the way down. Unfortunately, the cave in which he was meditating was infested with rats. So the rats chopped off the end of his hair. Still he is oblivious. And after a while, when he got up from the meditation, he saw the ends of his hairs had been chopped off by the rat. He got wild. Where are the rats? The point is, these are different methods and techniques, but it not necessarily help you reduce negative emotion. So to make a long story short, the purpose is when we talk about doing Dharma practice, when we talk about doing meditation, all these things, it should all be directed towards lessening your negative emotion, reducing your negative emotion, promoting, strengthening your positive emotion. If that is there, your practice is hitting the target. If it is not there, then it's a feel-good practice. Feel-good practice, which you can do if you like, but it will not have much much benefit. Okay? Yeah. Yes?
Why be a monk?
That's true. I'm also thinking like that. Yeah. but I started thinking very late. This is very good question. Many people will, benefit. It's like asking, why go to school? Why go to school? If you want to study, why go to school? Why go to college? Why? Huh? Yeah, because there is an environment. There is a discipline. If you want to get something, there must be some there must be some environment. There must be some discipline, and there hopefully there is less distraction, so that you are able to, pursue what you want to achieve. So similarly, the purpose of becoming a monk or a nun is so that there is, less activities for family, for near and dear ones, and for yourself also, so that you are able to focus and spend your time more on spiritual development. That's the purpose. That's the purpose. Yeah.
How do you avoid getting attached to His Holiness or to Buddha or your Guru?
This is very interesting question, because the interesting thing is, with holy objects you develop respect, but you normally don't develop attachment.
What's the how
Because the reason is you can't own them. With your husband, wife, you develop attachment because you want to own them. With your car, own them. But then Buddha, His Holiness, some people develop attachment, I know, but generally speaking, probably less attachment, more respect. Because you see them something on a more pure, higher pedestal. Right? Okay? Yes?
I don't really know how to ask this question, but I will try.
Yeah.
Everything what we experience by mind, and when we are in a kind of vipassana state, this is what we see, we also see from the mind. So there is something out of mind or not? Like out of mind, or everything what we experience is the mind itself.
Out of mind, the very fact whether there is something, whether something is there or not, is decided by the mind. If the mind does not know, then how will you say that something there or something not there? Right? So outside the mind there are objects, but we know there are objects because it's known by the mind. Right? So mind is the one really, the kind of thing that measures the existence, non-existence of everything. Yeah?
When we meditate on the Buddha, or when we bow to the Buddha, is it to the Gautama the Buddha, or is it our own Buddhahood, unrealized, when we meditate on the Buddha?
When we meditate on the Buddha, we are primarily meditating on his image. That's the only way, otherwise we have no idea what is Buddha, who is Buddha, what his qualities. But if you meditate on his qualities, then his qualities of compassion, qualities of wisdom, those things you can think. But otherwise, when we talk about meditating on the Buddha, we, as I mentioned earlier, you visualize image of the Buddha, and then see this image not as an image, but as a real living Buddha, smiling and rays of light emanating like that. So in the beginning, when you meditate on the image of the Buddha, don't try to see the details, how his eye is, how his mouth is, how his hand is. Then you will get distracted. So in the beginning, try to get a rough sketch, general idea. And then your meditation on that is successful, then you go into the details. Right? Okay?
I want to know the point of view of the Buddhism towards the astral travels experience, or also like the dreams, when happened that you can kind of see the future in your dreams, if it's the dreams, for example, are only the projection of the subconscious for the Buddhism, or is there is something more like another realm where this thing happens?
It depends on the dreamer. In ordinary cases, dreams are the biggest liars. They are the dreams, I know it myself. They have, that in dream it's very good in exaggerating things, taking things out of proportion on a small matter that you might have experienced when you are awake, and then you get dream of that, then you blow it out of proportion, right?
Yeah, no, what I mean is that
Then in the case of somebody who is highly realized, then just before going to sleep, they make an intention that I will now meditate on this, dream on this, right? And then they're able to actually experience the real thing that is to come in the future, like that. Yeah, astral traveling also possible.
Can I have a question? Thank you for touch basing the emptiness yesterday.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that the illusions have got multiple layers?
Yes.
One, this is illusion.
Yes.
Sitting in the room.
Yeah.
Rainbow is another illusion.
Yeah.
The night dream is another the dreams during the sleep is another illusion.
Yeah.
And sleep itself is an illusion.
Yeah.
So essentially, in terms
Illusion.
of
Yeah.
where exactly the reality starts and the illusion stops.
True. Very difficult question. I should stop the teaching here. The more I spend time with you guys, the more I am getting problem. No, illusion, for example, I touched on this point of 4 misconceptions of reality. What is seeing what is impermanent as permanent illusion, seeing what is selfless as having self illusion, seeing what is impure as pure illusion, seeing what has no independent existence, seeing that as having independent existence is illusion. Then illusion also comes because your senses are faulty, your eyesight is not good, you see illusion, your ear is not good, you hear illusion, so many things, right? Then the main cause of illusion is negative emotion. Because it is of this negative emotion you are not able to see the reality as it is. And gradually, with continuous practice, gradually when you remove all these negative emotions one after another, finally the ignorance, then you are able to see reality, emptiness as it is. So therefore, within the 5 paths, spiritual paths, the 3rd path is called path of seeing, darshan marg, path of seeing, where you are able to see emptiness directly. And before that, even when you are on the 1st path, the 2nd path, you are able to get some sense of emptiness. You are able to realize emptiness, but not directly. Right? So the obscurations, there are 2 obscurations. Obscuration to nirvana and obscuration to enlightenment. So obscuration to nirvana is the negative emotions, the negative emotion and the seeds. Again, to give a more clear example, you can experiment this with yourself. For example, if you have excessive attachment to somebody, you will not be able to see the reality of that person. For example, if you are somebody who is really very, very fond of chocolate or something, the mere sight of chocolate, you will immediately think, wow, chocolate, Immediately you'll take your money out and buy, illusion. Right?
Is the beginning of illusion awareness? Because if there's
Yes, true, very true.
There's no...
Yes, mindfulness, awareness, many things, yes. And it is this illusion which creates suffering, which creates problem. I gave you the example of the coil of rope as a snake. Best example. Seeing a coil of rope as a snake because of not proper light there, little bit of darkness there. So you saw that there is a snake. There is no snake, it's coil of rope. But you develop same amount of fear as if there is a real snake. So that's the point. It's not necessary that there is an object of fear, like a snake there. Yes, if there is a snake, you develop fear. Even otherwise, you develop fear. And that's why how many of you know Heart Sutra? Have you read Heart Sutra? So in the Heart Sutra, there is one line which says, it's so good for me, that line, where it says, because there is no obscuration of the mind, there is no fear. Similar, dipa mebe, takpa medo. Because when there is no obscuration to the mind, there is no fear. This is a line from Heart Sutra. So all this fear comes from misapprehension, obscuration, not being able to know the reality, and then because of your exaggerating things, because you like it. How much we exaggerate when we like something, We talk side, oh, it's so good, so wonderful, amazing, right? I mean, praising somebody is good, but okay, yeah.
A question regarding the question, why be a monk?
Uh.
So I was in the Dalai Lama temple a couple of days ago, and I saw a bunch of child monks.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering how they become monks, because obviously as young children we don't really decide by free will to go to kindergarten or to.
You are so good. You are so good. You ask me questions that's easy to answer. Because this question many people ask me. It's a very important question. Because in Tibet, I would say like over 98% of the Tibetan population are Buddhist. And the one thing that the Tibetans really admire is Buddhism, because there's not much material, technological, scientific development. And, we live in a very peaceful, vast country, living with the nature, You see the hosts of wild, zebras and, deers, running around, playing, nobody harming them, right? So because everybody is so much, after Buddhism, appreciated it. So everybody, they want to make at least one or two of their children become monk or a nun. If somebody says, I want to become monk, that's really good news. Oh, so wonderful. So wonderful. And then the drawback is a little bit based on blind faith. Then they have this habit of even making somebody who can't think for themselves, make them monk. This is your question. Make them monk. Now the trouble is, when they're unable to decide for themselves what they are doing, you make them monk. And then gradually when they grow up and see a beautiful girl, oh, I made a mistake. I disrobe. It happens. I'm just giving one example, it's not just the girl, but many other things, So nowadays, but in the text it says that little child should be at least grown up enough so that the child is able to drive away cross. If he's able to drive away cross, then it's okay to let him become monk, things like that. But now today, many people, still it is happening because majority of the people are ignorant, they are not educated, they have this kind of faith or blind faith or whatever. So and then some of them are really poor. So the monastery is the best place to, send their kids,
Also, don't the children become very educated if they go through the monastery, and if they are poor, they might not have the opportunity to receive such a good education in both Buddhism and just education.
In the monastery.
Uh-huh.
The monastery, mostly in the monastery, they have only Buddhist education. Primarily Buddhist education. That's what I'm saying. So those who are really poor, they can't afford to send their children for a, modern, good school or things like that. So in the monastery, everything is free. So they send it there. Still, this is happening. But the desired thing is that we should encourage young people to become monk only when they can decide and think what they are doing. But there's no guarantee that they will change their mind. Still they can change their mind, but that is a desired thing, yeah.
Can a monk change their mind later?
Of course, nobody can. It's a fundamental, it's not, according to the kind of constitution, it is what we call as, what do you call it, in the constitution they have directive principle. Something like directive principle, right? If you do it, wonderful. If you don't do it, it's not violating any, constitution, it's not going against any law. But of course you broke that monastic law, but that doesn't mean you become a criminal. It's not so good that you couldn't continue, so, but it's okay still. The important thing is you remain a good person, yeah.
When you become a monk, do you genuinely overcome your sexual desire, or do you suppress it?
It's almost like saying, you go to market, change your clothes, shave your hair, will you stop your sexual desire? Answer. It's really, honestly speaking, like that. We can change clothes very easily. Shave hair is no problem, not very easy. But still you are the same human being. Same ordinary human being with anger, with jealousy, with hatred. The only thing is you are saying, at least I will make an attempt to become better. Otherwise you are still ordinary human being.
Is it not dangerous to suppress such a core desire?
Good question, very good question. Very good question, but some things must be suppressed for long-term happiness. Then gradually you realize, because in the beginning it may be like, as you rightly mentioned, it may be like suppressing something because you don't have much knowledge about why I'm monk, what is the benefit, what is it, the important things. But gradually when you study and know, then you know, this is exactly what I am saying these days. When I also became monk, I really had not much idea what I'm doing. Because my teachers suggested you become monk. I was very young at that time. And my mothers and fathers, like any Tibetan, they used to call me a monk when I was not a monk. Then when I was in the school, my mother passed away. Then only thing that I thought was, oh, this is what she wanted, so I will become a monk. And my teachers are also urging, so I become a monk. That's it. I have no other knowledge. Then now today when I look back, still with all the negative emotions, of course, but then I think, oh, at least I'm on the right track. I am on the right track. Yeah, so that's why because of this having attachment, even after becoming a monk, you have attachment, everything. That's why so many are getting disrobed, especially when you go to the West. Almost all of them who went, not all of them, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but big percentage who go to the West. In India, much better, because you have proper monasteries, within the Tibetan culture. Things. When you go in the West, then you exercise your free will. Many of them get disrobed. Yeah.
What does your own meditation practice look like?
My own meditation. I'm talker, not meditator. I really I can't say I'm great meditator or anything like that, but I'm somebody who's very, very interested in reading and thinking all the time. I suppose that is meditation, but not so much formal sitting meditation, I need to do, but my bent of mind is slightly different. So I always ask questions, read all kind of books, Western philosophy, Western science a little bit, because science I don't know much. I studied mathematics, but not much. But there are so many layman's, science book these days, so I read them. So I try to crystallize the knowledge that I gain from Buddhism, from Western philosophy, from science. And then whatever really makes sense, I try to use it, apply it, and also present it to other people. That's what I do. So I'm completely surrounded by books. In the place where I work, this is called Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, Then in my own home, I almost spent big chunk of my money for buying books. So these days I have to tell myself, you stupid fellow, you are so old, why you are buying books now? But then the temptation, you buy one book, But the books are very good. Even when you die, others can use it, And nobody will say, oh, he has so many books. If I have, this is the good thing. Well, one time some thieves came and broke my door and took away many things, but they did not touch any of the books. This is really so then I love my books very much. All right, yes?
Yeah, I've got a question about perspective.
Huh? Yes.
Okay. So I'm thinking about how everything is in the mind. The experiences are basically neutral, that we just decide whether they're going to be positive or negative. The example that I've been thinking about the last couple of days has been rain. So I've had some days where it's raining, and that's kind of my default. I just assume that it's an unpleasurable experience. But I've also been to concerts where it's starting to rain, and I've just decided that I'm going to have fun, and it turns into a, instead of being a cold, wet, and miserable experience, it's a magical and beautiful experience. So looking for something practical, how do we change our perspective using something like rain as an example, to where next time it starts to rain and I start to feel like this is an unpleasurable experience, how do I transform that into being a pleasurable experience?
Yeah, in life you are bound to experience all ups and downs in life. All experiences, unpleasurable, pleasurable. You are bound to experience this. And then it may not be that easy to, quickly return to that state of mental stability, calmness. But you should not feel too sad with unpleasurable experiences, and don't feel too excited with pleasurable experiences. I have always been telling people, if you hear good news, you will be happy. All right, you will be happy. But don't get too excited, because bad news is waiting. When you hear bad news, of course you will feel sorry, but don't get too dejected, because good news is waiting. That's number one. Number two, good and bad, as I mentioned, is, much is dependent upon your attitude. For example, if there is a picnic, few of us, plan a picnic and go out. And in the morning when we were going out for the picnic, the sun was bright, everything was wonderful. Then suddenly, the clouds gather, it starts raining, not only rain, hailstorm. You're having your picnic, and now there is hailstorm. Because you came there with a wish to enjoy with the picnic, even when there is hailstorm, you will be still dancing there. And that thing becomes memorable, because your mind is ready to accept that. Now, for example, this particular sitting, you are sitting here for 3 days already, right? 4 hours every day, plus you have meditations, things like that. Right? Because you came here based on your free will. You're, you're enjoying. But the same sitting, if you had to do the same sitting because somebody asked you to go there with a bullet, with a gun behind your head, forget about sitting here, being able to enjoy sitting here for 4 or 5 days. Even for 1 hour, it will be miserable. Physically, you have to see it because that person is there. But mentally, it will appear like ages. So therefore, there is a statement in the Buddhist teaching called one moment is one aeon. One aeon is one moment. That means when you are happy, especially when you are in the state of Buddhahood, one aeon is just like one moment. It just goes so quickly. When you are suffering and unhappy, even one moment is almost like an aeon. You keep on watching your clothes, it's hurriedly moving, when you're waiting for your aeroplane or things like that, So that is attitude, you see. So while it is, common sense to go to those places where there is more pleasure, more happiness, and avoid those places where there is less pleasure, less happiness. That's common sense. But somehow, if you ended up experiencing these things, then try to change your attitude.
How do we do that?
Huh?
So let's say that example that you gave where we're at.
Yeah, you can do that by saying, okay, nothing is permanent. And you can say that by saying, okay, can I leave this place which is so uninviting and unpleasurable? Can I go out? Can I leave this place? If you can leave this place, then because you are not enjoying, just leave it. Why you should be sitting there like a zombie? Just go. If somehow the situation is such that you have to sit there, the only thing left is enjoy it. And I tell this with my staffs, some of my workers. For example, if your job is cleaning, because of this job of cleaning, he gets a monthly salary. But because he's getting this salary, he is there, but he's not enjoying it. Because he's not enjoying it, he will never be able to do a good work. And other people always say he's really bad, he's not doing his job, So now, because you have no other job, this is the only thing that you can do. So enjoy it. Do it in the best way you can. And you might become an expert in that. As I mentioned the other day. You can learn from that.
That Buddhism things that...
I liked your gesture. She was like this. Shall I imitate? She was sitting like this. Yes.
Does Buddhism believe that positive or like good or bad spirits can influence some people?
Yes. Just like good and bad people, forget about spirit. Good and bad people can influence you. Vibration, as we say it. And then also, what kind of feeling you get with people also depended upon your past karma. I had this experience. Sometimes when you just walking with people in Meghalorganj, you see some people without any rhyme and reason. When you see this person, you feel unhappy, A little bit, you want to distance, Then on some other occasions, you see some people again for the first time, you feel like smiling and talking to that person, Not necessarily he is handsome or she is beautiful, not like that, but you get this kind of, what do you call this, vibes? Yeah, vibes. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
So in yoga,
Yeah.
we say that there is a self, which is not empty, so the Atman, and in Buddhism we have Anatman.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask if it is just semantics, or is there a way to reconcile the two? Because these philosophies are so closely, they say very similar things, but this seems very, Yeah, I just wanted to ask your opinion on this. And if there is no soul, what's a spirit?
These are two different understandings. The reason that some philosophical traditions believe in the soul, because unless there is a permanent thing called soul, how would you explain the future life? There must be something permanent like that. That's the reason. Then, so therefore you believe Atma. Then Buddhism talk about Anatma, the soulless theory. Because if the soul is permanent, what is the use? It's of no benefit. Because it cannot become better, it cannot help you, it cannot get enlightened, it is permanent, like a stone.
But just because it has no use doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Because unlike stone, the role of soul is different. It's for experiencing long-lasting happiness. So how, a permanent soul, how can it experience long-lasting happiness? Then according to Buddhism, as I mentioned earlier, for continuity of life after life, it's not necessary to have something permanent. What is important is continuity. That continuity is done by the mind. The mind continues. As I explained earlier, the stream that originates from snow mountain goes into the lake. So it continues, bringing with it all the experiences, happy experience, suffering experience, picking up all the habits. So there's a mind which does the job. The example is, for example, those who believe in the soul, they say, if I have a lump of gold, this is the soul, lump of gold, then I change its shape, make it a pot, still it is gold. Then I change its shape, make it a cup, still it is gold. So with this reason, they say it is still the soul that goes. But according to Buddhism, it says, yes, it is the same gold, but you see, it's changing all the time. It was just a lump of gold, then change into pot, change into cup. It's changing all the time. But still the continuity, the experiences go on. This is how we explain the so-called I. That so-called I, at the end of the day, has to be pinpointed somewhere near the mind. Because we say, we die and take rebirth. What is it that takes rebirth? It's primarily the mind, based on which we give the designation of the self and the I and so on. Okay? Done with all the questions? Yeah.
Unlike many of us here, I do not have much experience in meditating. This is my first experience. So when I'm practicing meditation in these sessions, there are a lot of thoughts running by.
Lot of?
Thoughts.
Yeah.
And which made me think if the thinker, that is me, and the thoughts are the same, or are they
Different, of course. You are the thinker.
I feel one with the thought when I'm meditating.
Yeah, because you are lost into that. But that doesn't mean you are one. The I and my body are different. I and my mind are different. Mind and body is what you possess, and you are the possessor. So therefore it is different. Yeah. But because you are lost in something, you really feel you are there. Doesn't mean you are one. Okay.
So what's a spirit?
Huh?
What's a spirit?
It depends upon what kind of definition you are going to give to the spirit.
A ghost, a thing?
Not necessarily. Spirit, maybe positive spirit, negative spirit, all kind of spirits are there. So spirit is basically, I would say, spirit is just a kind of mind without a body. Yeah. Yeah, Pardo state. Yeah. Energy. Spirit. Spiritualism. Okay? Okay, let us read a few lines. Positive actions and their results. Positive actions. So we already discussed the negative actions, now positive actions. Positive actions. This is the virtuous mind that sees such acts as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct as wrong, and has the heart to engage in positive deeds. See, he used the word has the heart. Many of us don't have the heart to do the good thing. These are the physical deeds of practicing total restraint from these acts and completion of the restraint. The same should be applied to the 4 positive verbal actions and the 3 positive mental actions, which means killing is not killing here now. Not killing, not stealing, not engaging in sexual conduct, not lying, not engaging in divisive talk, and what? Not engaging in harsh speech, not engaging in gossip, not engaging in covetousness, not engaging in harmful intention, and not developing wrong views. These are the 10 positive deeds. The same should be applied to the 4 positive verbal actions and the 3 positive mental actions. The differences between them is that some are actions of speech and others are actions of the mind. In the act of killing, other living beings are the basis of the action, and the thought is to see the wrong in the deed and want to abandon the act. The positive action is abandoning the act with proper realization, and the consummation or completion of the stage is physically desisting from carrying out that act. The same should be understood as applying to the other positive deeds. It's very similar. Result. Positive results. Fruitional results. Each small, medium, just as we did with the 10 non-virtuous actions, each small, medium and great positive act will result in the rebirth in the human realm, the desire realm, and the 2 higher God realms respectively. The causally concordant results and the dominant results are the opposite of the same results of the negative deeds. Right? For example, if you engage in non-killing, you will live longer. You will be healthier. If you not engage in sexual misconduct, you will have a wife which is more trustworthy. You have a husband which is more reliable. Things like that. Less cheating. Okay? The dominant results are the opposite. Yeah, they are the same. So you can understand from this. Projecting and completing actions. Other divisions of actions. Positive deeds project us to be born in the higher rebirth, while negative deeds project us in the lower realms. But completion is not certain. Even in the higher realms, there are those who lack complete faculties due to their negative deeds, while in the lower realms, some animals and hungry ghosts possess riches due to their virtues. So that means, for example, the dog, your pet dog, the projecting cause for that project dog is negative emotion, negative deed. But because that dog is your pet and you are taking very good care of the dog, it's getting good food, good place to sleep, so therefore the completing action is positive action. So similarly, there can be people who are born as human being, so the projecting cause is positive action. But even after being born as human being, he may have many difficulties. This is a result of completing action as a negative. The types of action that give definite and indefinite experiences. The actions that bring indefinite experiences refer to those deeds that are committed unintentionally or are not accumulated. For example, if you are going around the temple or moving somewhere, without your knowledge, you trample upon an ant or an insect and kill it. So that is not a negative action which is done, accumulated but not done. So that's lighter, the result will be lighter. The actions that bring indefinite experiences refer to those deeds that are committed unintentionally or are not accumulated. Deeds that give definite experiences, though that are committed intentionally, their experiential results are time-based, and there are three categories of this. Results that are experienced in the same life. So this we already answered. When will the fruit of negative deeds come? Maybe tomorrow, maybe after 2 months, maybe in this life, maybe next life, maybe after many lives. So results that are experienced in the same life, possible, results that are experienced in the next life, and results that are experienced in many afterlives. In terms of how all these accumulated positive and negative actions give rise to results in order from the strongest deeds to their lesser ones, if particular actions are similar in weight. So that means now one person may have committed so many negative deeds. So the question is, which one of them will give their fruit first? So this is what he is answering. In terms of how all these accumulated positive and negative actions give rise to results, in order from the strongest deeds to the lesser ones. If particular actions are similar in weight, both are heavy, negative or positive action, it should be known that the ones that are committed just before death give rise to result first. If they are similar weight, the ones with which we are more habituated, which we have been doing more and more, will give result to the first. And if they are equally familiar to us, then the one committed first will give us the result first. Contemplating in particular, we will gain a higher rebirth just by abandoning the 10 negative actions. However, with a basis that has all the characteristics that are the foundation of omniscience, we can practice the path at a different level. Therefore, we must obtain that there are three aspects to this. So this is what he is saying here is, we will gain a higher rebirth just by abandoning the 10 negative deeds. But if you really want to have very special features, facilitating factors to get enlightened, then you need to pay attention to this. That's what he's saying. These are three aspects to this. Fruitional qualities. Fruitional quality means there are 8 fruitional qualities. Excellent birth. So this is what he's saying. In order to really, if you really want to engage in a practice which will facilitate you to achieve enlightenment quicker, then you need to do those things which will give these fruits. Make sure that you do those things which will give you an excellent birth, excellent complexion, handsome, beautiful. Even teacher, if it is handsome, people pay more attention. This is the way it is, right? Then excellent lineage, excellent dominion, credible speech, powerful popularity, being male. This is biased, right? This is biased. Now I know you are going to attack me, but I am ready to defend myself. Having strength. Okay, let me explain this a little bit. From where Buddhism originated? Which country? India. Any religion is influenced by the culture at that time. So in the Indian culture also, I think there is, I don't know how to use the proper word, probably there is more kind of attention paid to the male than to the women. Right? That's the result. Then Some of the texts, this is important for you to understand. For example, this book that I've shown you, The Bodhisattva Way of Life, and similarly there are many books where they highlight the faults of women, shortcomings of women, and then women, they feel very upset. But this should be understood in the right cultural context. Number one, these teachings were normally given to the monks. So therefore, for a practicing monk, it is important that he stay away from women. Then think about the disadvantages, things like that. That's one reason. Then again, another thing is, as I said, culturally also there is this, what you call as, male chauvinism, something like that. But in order to kind of rectify this mistake, it looks like, but you need to know the history very well. If you now go to the Kala Chakra teaching, then after having received the Kala Chakra initiation, there are certain commitments, pledges that you have to observe. There it clearly mentions, if you say anything bad, negative against women, it is a breaking of the vow. The same thing is not said against men. So this looks like rectifying the wrong, correcting the wrong.
Changed it.
Yes.
In my copy, I changed it to people, not women.
Yeah. So there's the thing. Not only not illusion, but the important thing is, if you use your own common sense, when we talk about getting enlightenment, we are not talking about participating in wrestling. If it's a participation in wrestling, then male physically a little bit stronger, yeah. Women are also very good, but still physically they may be a little bit stronger. And then the male chauvinism, whether in India, whether in the West, anywhere, it's primarily based on physical strength. When we talk about education, when we talk about enlightenment, we are talking about mind, actualizing those qualities by the mind, not physical strength. And with the mind, there's no man, no male, no female. Even one individual mind has a kind of female aspect, male aspect. That's there with everybody. Number one. Number two, if I'm not biased, women have this capacity to become mother, right? Because of that, it looks like their heart is a little bit softer, more towards love, more towards compassion. Right? So therefore, it is important to understand all this in the right perspective. Yeah.
I'm not sure what text it is, but there is one text where it says that only men can become enlightened.
Possible, yeah. There's all male chauvinism, continuation of male chauvinism, possible, yeah.
I have a very hypothetical question.
Yes.
If Lord Buddha would be in action,
yeah,
in 21st century,
yeah,
the narratives of the text,
yeah,
would be different in terms of the accounts of good and
no,
bad.
like Kala Chakra was during his time, something like that. So he already made this correction. But he also living within the cultural context. There are many stories of how some of these great people are struggling against the prevalent culture, you see. But now we don't have to talk about Buddha, we have to talk about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the Tibetan society, he saw, and he very clearly mentioned, that even if there is no intentional discrimination between men and women, but it is a fact that women are lagging a little bit behind. So therefore, he told women to come forward and seize the opportunity. And when you seize the opportunity, if you find any obstruction, any hindrance, let me know. I will set it right. Not only he said this, what he did was, he made it sure that some women are there in the parliament, even if they are not elected. Make sure that some seats are there for women. Then in the cabinet ministry also, he made it sure that somebody is there. Because of this encouragement, now the present, the city president, except him, all the three other ministers are women. He intentionally empowered them. Three cabinet ministers are women. Then most of the office of His Holiness, representative office, most of them are women now, young women. So that's important, very important. And His Holiness and Mahatma Gandhi, they all say, mother is the first teacher who give education to the children. Right? So, it's important, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Is there a positive karma from giving life to a human, to giving birth?
Giving what?
To giving life, to giving birth to a life. Is there positive karma to that? Like heavy positive karma is the opposite to taking life, to killing?
Yeah. So, the question is?
I mean, to give birth, killing somebody is a negative karma.
Yeah.
She's asking, giving birth in that perspective is a positive karma or not?
That depends upon your motivation. Depends on your motivation. If you give birth because it's the way it is, you live with your boyfriend, husband, and then just child is a product, then not necessarily positive. But with special intention. For example, there is a story in Buddhism. There's one lady, very devout Buddhist. And then she said, in the prevalent situation, man is prepared. So therefore, I must produce, male child, so that they are able to, uphold the Buddha's teaching. And because of her prayer, he met a Brahman and someone else, and then had two children. These two children, one of the top Buddhist teachers, Vasubandhu and Asanga. So that is of course positive. It depends, yeah.
But isn't each life precious regardless?
Yeah, of course life is precious, yes.
So wouldn't that generate some positive karma regardless of how it came about to generate a precious life into the world?
But then the point is not just the child. Make that child precious. As I mentioned earlier, precious human life basically means not the life itself, not the body, but being able to engage in the positive virtuous practices. Yeah.
Why would we not change such statements, for example, discriminating women in such texts, since you obviously just printed this book? So what speaks against that? Is it because we're...
What?
Why would we not change such statements such as...
No, I can't change this, because we need to tell the story. This is how it is. This is how it came.
But why not go with time?
No, you go with time, but you don't change the story. You can't change the story, because you need to present the story. This is the story. Now you should see for yourself whether it's good or not, with a fair mind. Don't just become a feminist. There's sometimes a risk, you go towards too much. Just like the male chauvinist, if you talk too much about women, there's also possibilities of making a mistake.
But just as you said, maybe we are intelligent enough to
Exactly.
something like this.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
As we talked about it earlier,
So in your case,
monks who only see what they grew up with, they didn't have any other education, and they read this and grew up with this, and this is their reality, and they think this is the truth.
True. Therefore, it's not just changing the book. Keep it as it is, and then explain the situation. Explain the situation. Then they will know where we are making mistake. Right? That's important. Yeah? Yeah?
If Buddha Shakyamuni knows everything, how could he make the mistake of not allowing his mother in the beginning to become a nun, to become a follower? And his mom, right? Was a mother?
Buddha, even if I say, first of all, to be honest, it's not easy, as I mentioned earlier, to say that he's omniscient. I'm not saying he's not omniscient. I'm not saying he's not omniscient. But all I'm saying is, with our limited mind, it's difficult to know. But we accept him, we respect, revere him, expect him, as omniscient. So therefore, I need to counter your. You must have heard when Buddha gave the teaching, he gave 2 levels of teaching: interpretative teaching and ultimate teaching. So here you can ask, why he gave the interpretative teaching? Why don't he give the ultimate teaching straight away? The reason that he had to give these 2-3 levels of teaching is because even though he has this ultimate teaching ready to teach, but people will not be able to understand it. It's being skillful. Right? So for example, I give you this beautiful explanation. Ajatashatru, who later became king, he killed his father, Bimbisara, because of wrong friend. And after having killed the father, he learned that patricide, killing one's father, is a heinous crime. By realizing that, he sank into depression. Then he went around, what should I do, Then somebody said, the only person who can help you is Buddha, go to him. He goes to the Buddha and he says, this is the crime that I committed, what should I do? The Buddha said, so what? Father and mother are to be killed. So when he heard this from the Buddha, he thought, okay, I did the right thing. He came back to his senses, he came out of the depression. When he came out of the depression, came back to his senses, then he said, look, I'll explain what I meant when I said this. When I said father and mother to be killed, I'm not talking about the physical father and mother. I'm talking about ignorance and negative action, like the father and mother. They are responsible for all other negative emotions. They should be killed. When they are killed, all your, the negative deeds that you have done will be purified. So you can't really teach everything that you know. Skillful means. Yes. Have what?
Have you ever felt energetically burnt out following this path of compassion and love?
What? Energetically burned out. Energetically burned out. Now I'll praise myself, okay? Was it this morning? This morning I met one of my staff who looked at me and said, Geshe, you are working so hard. Maybe because of your responsibility, you have to do all these things. I attended this 6 days, science conference, and I felt very tired because I couldn't have this Saturday and Sunday holiday. I felt a little bit tired. And you have been working for all this. Now you all have these teachings. You miss your Saturday and Sunday last time. You are going to miss this time also. So you don't feel tired, Then I told him, I get a very good night rest. Very good night sleep. So you need to be clever because I'll give you a very secret instruction. The time to rest is when you have no time to rest. If you do that, then you will hopefully never get tired. Of course, with your age and many things you have to consider. But otherwise, number one, whatever you are doing, you need to like it. If you like it, there is less chances of getting tired. Then in between, you should have good food, good tea, take some nice hot bath, take some rest, do something that you really like to do, small things that pleases your monkey mind. Then I think you will have no problem. But sometimes when you become very rigid for something, not making your mind happy with some small things, then you get tired. Yeah.
What makes somebody Buddhist? Because for me personally, I do with most of the stuff, but I disagree with certain things. Like I think plants are conscious, and I also would like to believe in a soul. Obviously, I don't know. But then, so am I Buddhist or am I not Buddhist? And is a Buddhist allowed to disagree with something?
Buddhist means somebody who takes wholehearted refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. If you take wholehearted refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, you are Buddhist. If you don't do that, you are not Buddhist. Now, taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha means you take refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, not, without any knowledge, but first you should study and know who is Buddha, who is Dharma, who is Sangha, why should I take refuge. So it's a long process. So through this kind of study and analysis, when you really find this is the path for me, and then you decide, you become Buddhist. Sometimes there is a short ceremony, you can do it with some teacher, but I think that is not a big thing. The most important thing is your decision, based on the conviction.
And are you allowed to disagree with some of the things?
Of course! Even after you become Buddhist, you can question Buddha's teaching. Because that's why the Buddha said, I think I said this earlier, O bhikshus and learned people, just as the goldsmith judges the gold by cutting, rubbing and putting under the fire, similarly, well examine my teaching and follow it, and don't follow it because you respect me. You judge it, and if you think this is nonsense, no need to follow. That's what he said. So you always, even these days, I caution all the time. Yeah, and not with disrespect, but because you have a caution, you're permitted to ask that. Okay, one last. Then I'm going to enjoy. Yeah. Whatever that means. Yeah. What?
Is there any Buddhist teachings that you disagree with?
Buddhist teachings? That is short on the right side, as we say. Okay. Any Buddhist teaching? Any Buddhist teachings that I disagree with? I have no idea. So far, maybe not. Because my understanding of complete teaching of Buddha is very limited, so I can't say that I know all the teachings of the Buddha, right? But so far, quite good. I really have not much major disagreement. Yeah. Okay, thank you.